my children. Welcome.
That's true. Welcome.
Another episode
again
of the HooperCast.
Hooper, you're lagging. So all I heard was, like you, I guess whatever it was you just said, I have no idea, but you went, is how you started it, and it repeated it. So it's just,
Well, that should be interesting.
And now you're frozen completely. Hooper.
Okay.
Oh, you're good. Okay.
Anyway, we've got a few movies to tackle today and some retro reviews. Oh, I'm sorry. How are you, Dustin?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for introducing me, finally.
Hello.
You jerk.
Sorry. We have not recorded in about a month.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So I've just been catching up on TV, none of which I can really report because I'm not caught up. So that's a waste of time. But saw some movies. You saw some movies.
I did.
Real quickly, I wanted to tackle something in television because I did see something current. And I wanted to speak real briefly about it. Because honestly, I don't know what's going on. I watched the pilot of the HBO's The Leftovers. Which is that's their new show.
Yeah.
This is executive produced by. I should have pulled it up. Now
Is this the Damon Lindelof show?
This is the Damon Lindelof show. This is executive produced by Damon Lindelof, and then it's based on a book. It's based on well, now all this stuff is gone. Where's Wikipedia? I know it's not as at least I can figure out where. Okay, Tom Perrotta is the guy's name.
Okay,
and it's based on his book, and it's I guess in the book. Sorry, it's basically what happens is there's like the rapture essentially. They don't call it the rapture. They don't imply really any religious assignment to it either. But the show kind of starts taking place on like the 3rd anniversary of it. So I can't remember exactly how many people they say get raptured up. I think it's it says somewhere it was like 2% of the world's population.
Okay.
Which is like 180 million people or something. Something like that. That could be wrong. But it's kind of dealing with, what's been happening since. And honestly, I don't know what to think of the pilot. I can't really say that I'm that engaged. It's a well-done show. I mean, it's... but that's not even that much to say these days because... Like, you'd have to work really hard to make a show look like it's not well executed.
Right. Exactly.
So, there's nothing wrong with, like, the physical quality of the show, but all the acting's good. The main character is main actor is Justin Theroux. He's the guy who's about to marry Jennifer Aniston.
Yes.
He wrote, Iron Man 3, Tropic Thunder. He's been in a lot of movies, too. And I like him.
He wrote Iron Man 3? I didn't know that.
Sorry, 2.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So he's like the chief of police in this. I think the town's called like Mapleton or something. Yeah, Mapleton, which I don't even know what part of the country it's supposed to be in. I'm just going to assume ambiguous northeast and
somewhere near Canada.
Yeah. And
because of
maples. And I'm not really like I said. I'm not really sure what happened. It has that same kind of. My wife also watched it and just texted me and said, "I'm not sure I get it." And I said, "I don't know, but it's hard for me to be hopeful about all the mystery set up because of Damon Lindelof's involvement. Like again and again, Lost and Prometheus, and all I see is just a guy who's like, I would hope he's smart enough to know that people aren't going to fall for that 3 times, but twice on television."
Right.
But maybe he's not that smart, or maybe it's going to be good. But like, it didn't really hook me. I can see some people having watched this and going, it doesn't seem like it's worth... Like, whereas the pilot of Lost was insane.
Yeah,
And
nobody can argue against the Pilot of Lost.
Yeah, so the Pilot of Lost was much better than this show. So
Sure.
I'll keep watching because it doesn't take a lot of effort, But
Yeah.
So I'll get a chance to see where it goes. But there's only really one thing that hooked me emotionally at the end, but that was for one character. I'm not really connected to any of these characters so far. I'm not really invested in what's happening to them.
Sure.
It was like a mix between. It felt a little bit like Flash Forward because they kept referencing like an event that happened all over the world that everyone knows about. So, and just it reminded me, like, where were you when this happened? Like a quick flash, It's just like, it's going to be kind of like that too. So, I'm not too sure what to think of it yet. So, but my initial thought is, I don't have my hopes up, as much as I did when I first heard about the project itself. I was hoping it would have been the Rapture. And that there would be a lot of people coping with, why not me? Haven't I lived a good life? What does this mean? Like, what is my future? What is there left to? What reason is there left to be a good person? And maybe they will deal with that, but they treated it so not even ambiguous. But they didn't assign anything to it, so I don't know what connotation it's supposed to have.
Sure. I remember when I read about this, I felt like their reluctance to say whether or not it was the biblical, event is disappointing to me. Yeah. Because I feel like that it's almost like we don't know if we want to do that, and it's like, well, just pick something. Either you do it or you don't do it. Yeah. And at least that's sort of my hesitation towards it. But yeah.
So I'm going to keep watching it. I'm going to, I'll briefly mention it at the beginning of each show from here on out, if I have any thoughts on it, period, or if I'm still watching it. But right now, it's just like, okay, if you missed it, don't worry. Who cares?
Yeah. On a related note, there's a new adaptation of Left Behind that's coming to theaters. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Left Behind, all you listeners out there in cyberspace. Left Behind was a hugely popular series of books in the early 2000s. Maybe it was the late 90s is when it started. I can't remember, but it's a series of Christian novels that take place after the Rapture. And so it is the biblical rapture, and all of the biblical elements are present. It's a fictional story. It's not like here's what's going to happen. It's like a fictional story set within that. And so anyway, there's a new adaptation coming out. There was an old one which starred Kirk Cameron, which was not very good. I think they made 2 sequels, which were even worse. And then not that I ever saw all of them, but whatever. I think I did see the first one when it came out. And then, but they've got a new one coming out. Stars Nicolas Cage. And it looks just terrible. And, it's a shame because an event like that, that's going to be... there's such dramatic potential there. To see it wasted on, Nicolas Cage is kind of like, sorry that this had to happen. But yeah, okay, so anyway, that's my related note there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm just gonna have to see. It's just it didn't wow me. I thought I'd get hooked in easily.
Sure.
And the main draw of this show wasn't really Damon Lindelof. It was really just the fact that it was an HBO show.
Right.
So
exactly.
I'm not even connected really emotionally to anyone who's involved, except for the people whose app I watch it on. So that should tell you something that I'm already It's like a sticker I've already worn, and I'm trying to put it on a different shirt already. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's already got all the fibers and stuff. It's not going to stick as well.
It does.
So you better make it worth my while. Anyway, that's the leftovers. Who knows? Who knows, gotcha. Really? Anyway, well, that's it for TV, I guess.
Okay.
We've got some movies.
I do. I have a few movies.
Which one do you want to lead with?
I'll lead with the revisited film. I just want to talk about this for a brief second.
Okay.
I recently bought John Carter on Blu-ray. John Carter came out in 2012, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. I didn't see it in theaters, but I did see it when it came out on Redbox shortly thereafter. John Carter was not very well received when it came out. A lot of people kind of I feel like went in expecting something that it wasn't. A lot of that's due to the marketing, various reasons. But I rewatched it and found myself really enjoying the movie for what it was. And so here's sort of what I'm getting at. John Carter's one of those movies that when you watch the first time is like, okay, that was okay, that was good. Mm-hmm. But then the second time you're like, okay, that was actually really good. Like, I don't understand why that didn't catch on. And I feel like a part of that may be because it offered a version of Mars that we had kind of seen before. Star Wars kind of plundered images from Edgar Rice Burroughs' version of Mars, and so among many other things, Star Trek, everything has plundered from John Carter. So by the time John Carter gets to the theaters, it kind of feels like more of the same, even though it was what inspired all of that stuff. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if you've seen this movie and wrote it off, watch it again, because on a rerun, it's a really, really good thing. It's a really good piece that I feel like gets underappreciated. And I recently saw Andrew Stanton, the director, put up his sort of title treatment, or like a logo treatment for the two sequels that he would have made, and they sound really cool. And it's just a shame that this movie kind of got hit by critics and whoever else immediately. Walt Disney had no faith in the project, and it kind of didn't even stand a chance. And so it's really a shame. But if you haven't seen it, go out, rent it, whatever. But don't fault it for having visuals that are similar to things you've already seen. And keep in mind that this was the source of those visuals. So when you see Obi-Wan and Anakin, fighting in this big pit of monsters in Attack of the Clones, that's ripped directly from John Carter of Mars. So by the time John Carter of Mars hits the theaters, you feel like you've seen it before, but it's actually the thing that Star Wars ripped off. So just keep in mind that, this was before, and don't let the fact that you've seen things since cloud your judgment of the movie as is. So anyway, that's my take on John Carter. I loved it. I think it's really, really great, and I think it's one of those movies that in a few years people are going to kind of reevaluate and say, hold on, we didn't give this a fair shake, and people are going to find that it's actually very well made. So anyway, that's my little John Carter plug. So why don't you give us one, Hooper?
Oh, okay. I saw a couple that are not new releases, but they're recent releases. I saw Magic Mike. I finally watched that. And,
okay.
And I only have time to watch these on the weekend, and I didn't watch Magic Mike for so long because I was afraid that someone would walk behind me while I was watching a movie where dudes are stripping. And so I just did that thing where you make sure you're sitting where your back's to the bulk of the room and you're right facing the door.
Yeah.
And I watched Magic Mike. This movie is a 2012 movie. Stars Channing Tatum. That was Alex Pettyfer? Sorry, I didn't realize. Oh, okay. Well, Alex Pettyfer, some other dudes who have a few lines in the movie, and Matthew McConaughey. The Wikipedia is saying the plot revolves around Adam, like Alex Pettyfer's character, but the title character is Magic Mike, and he's really the one you follow for most of the movie, if not for like a couple of scenes where you don't, I guess. But
right.
So Magic Mike is this stripper, the male stripper, and I think it takes place in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
But he's not just. What I like about him is that he's not just. he's not just a stripper. He's got like he's like an
he's got a heart of gold.
Well, he's like an entrepreneur. He has like he also owns like a construction business. Like he's a part owner of a construction business. He's a part owner of like an auto repair business. Like he's got several plates spinning, you know.
Sure.
And he wants to...
A jack of all trades.
Yeah, and he kind of wants to kind of grow his businesses and start another one that he's been saving up money for a long time. Which one is... it's like... hold on. Opening... Okay, that's what he wants to do. I forgot about this. He actually builds custom furniture, too. And he's been saving up to have like a down payment to start a custom furniture business, which is what he ultimately wants to do. And so, you know, he strips and he does the construction. He gathers money from all these various sources to sort of afford saving up for that. So he's enjoying his life because he has fun and but not like stupid fun. Like he's like a responsible dude, just kind of a good time sort of guy. The movie's really good, and you know, and he, this kid sort of enters his life, and so he kind of takes him under his wing and gets him into the business, you know, and then throughout the course of the movie, things happen to that guy, and you know, because of that guy and whatnot, and then he reaches sort of a point where he's wondering if this is where he wants to be in life, even though he's told himself it's kind of a temporary thing. It's a really good film. This was directed by Steven Soderbergh, and it's unlike The Girlfriend Experience. This is well-paced. It's interesting. All the actors are charismatic. You obviously have to be because they're all playing strippers. So, but they're all really funny, and they're all really like charming, and you know, just very. I was happy to see Joe Manganiello, or whatever that guy's name is, from True Blood, who I call him Davis because every time I see him, he was in the What to Expect When You're Expecting, and he was this character named Davis who they all vicariously lived through. I
always call him Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
He was Flash.
Oh my God, he was Flash.
He was Flash in the first Spider-Man. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that was him.
That was him, man.
Whoa. Well, I like that guy. So every time I see him, I'm like, Davis. Especially Channing Tatum, who I've already, you know, who's already won me over in terms of his likability, but he's especially likable here. He carries the movie because he's super charming, and he's got this charisma, and this is kind of sort of based on his life because he came from Tampa and he was a stripper, you know, before he was actually into acting. This was sort of his life to a degree. So, as for the stripping sequences themselves, as a male and as an objective observer, I will say that I was very impressed with their choreography and the kind of stuff they're pulling off. These are long takes,
right? Sure.
Of like a huge routine, and I was really impressed by how well they can all dance and even just move. So, women, of course, like this movie.
Yes,
I don't want to generalize, but
but they do.
What they do. I mean, the same way men would like it if this was like a burlesque film, but not the film Burlesque.
Right.
And but everyone would like this movie just because it's just watching this likable guy trying to sort of strive to make his life to make the right decisions in life and has his head on straight.
Sure.
What you wouldn't expect from just a bunch of male strippers.
Right.
It's good though. It's really good. I would recommend it.
Good. Let me just say this. Whatever Channing Tatum did to make himself actually have screen presence, every actor needs to do, because I have to give him credit because he's like the most improved actor of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Where a guy just starts and everyone's like, oh, what a joke.
Yeah.
And then like 3 years later, everyone's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had that in you, buddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I think because people reference him being sort of like this this isn't a buzzword. If it is, I'm sorry, but like people I've heard people refer to him as like a wigger.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, when was he ever like that? But I haven't, but apparently if you go back and look at like the Step Up movies and his earlier stuff, he had this sort of like, hey dog, that kind of stuff.
I got you.
Going on. So I don't know if that was just a little bit of Tampa that was still on him,
right? Still hanging around,
or what was going on. But in those films, I don't feel like I'm looking at him. I feel like I'm looking at someone who's closed off and whatnot. But when in these movies, especially his recent work, I feel like I'm looking at. I feel like for the most part, like this is the guy,
Yeah, I mean, but it's so crazy because when you look at something like G.I. Joe or Step Up or even like The Eagle, he doesn't have a lot of charisma. And I don't know if it's just the role that he was given, because we all know G.I. Joe was not the best written movie in the world. But I don't know if it was just what he was given to work with and he just couldn't bring it to life or what, but it really wasn't until probably 21 Jump Street that anyone was like, all right, hold up.
I remember when The Eagle came out, I had heard some people saying like about his performance that it was actually his best one at the time. Like in terms of his charisma, a high bar, right? But at the time, like it was above everything. And then I can't remember if this came out before 21 Jump Street. I don't think it did. 21 Jump Street was 2012, but when did this... It was the same year, I guess. When did this get released?
Yeah.
Was it June? Okay, so technically 21 Jump... But yeah, it was 21 Jump Street.
It was the same year. Anyway,
yeah,
2012. He sort of was like, hey guys, hold on. Let me show you something. Right. And everybody was like, all right, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. And I don't know if it was just hanging out with Jonah Hill, who also everyone was like, what a joke. And then all of a sudden was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, I'm going to get nominated for an Oscar while I'm at it.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah. So I have no clue how all of that worked out, but
yeah, that's
major credit to them.
The two of them, I don't understand how their careers have suddenly like... I mean, Jonah Hill was going to be fine anyway, but like now he's doing really well. And so
but like
Channing
in a
Tatum.
jokey kind of way, he was going to be fine.
Yeah, like he was going to do comedies, until he died prematurely from his weight. But
yes,
yeah.
Well, that gives me a good segue into 22 Jump Street, which let me recap it for you a little bit here. The synopsis is Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill have to basically go undercover at this college to find these, drugs that are being sold and passed around. So literally the plot is the exact same as the first movie, which they reference numerous times in the film that this is the exact same plot. And I love that about these films, that they sort of break the fourth wall in a way, especially the Nick Offerman character, who's speaking about Hollywood and the way that it works. And so anyway, that's basically the plot. I mean, it college life ensues, and there are romances and bromances and football and drinking and all of that college stuff that you would expect from a college movie. But okay, so here's the thing. This may be the funniest movie I have ever seen in the theaters. And that's a tall order. But I saw this with a crowd that loved it, that was loving every minute of it, and I have not laughed that hard in a theater in a long time. So while this is still in theaters, I highly recommend you go check this movie out because it's funny. It's also very smart. Like I said, it breaks the fourth wall. It makes fun of itself, but it does it in a smart way rather than like you can do that and be too winky about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so if that's a word, winky, I don't know. Anyway, you can.
I think that's one of those
the audience
things that tries to kill Pac-Man.
Winky, yeah.
Yeah, winky.
Winky, blinky, pinky, and
stinky.
They're all ghosts. So they're very smart about it. And there's some great performances in here, some great comedic performances from people like Ice Cube, and you're like, I didn't even know that guy could be funny.
Right.
And and he does get a little more to do in this one, and just some really great stuff, some really smart dialogue, and again, this is directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who are really on a hot streak right now.
Yeah.
Between 21, Lego Movie, and 22, they are really, really dominating right now, and more power to them, because all three of those movies were very funny and very smart. So yeah, I know it's a little late. I think it's probably still in theaters for most people. Go check it out before it leaves theaters. See it with an audience. There may not be very many people there still watching it, but it's going to be more than when you watch it in your living room by yourself.
Right.
So go check it out. It's really funny, and you'll have a good time, but you won't feel like, man, I just lost 20 points off my IQ, which does happen with some movies. And but yeah, there's some really good cameos, some really good gags, and yeah, it's I highly enjoyed it.
All right. Well, talk about another one you got.
Okay. Let me also talk about another one that's in theaters right now. Is Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow stars Tom Cruise. It's sort of a science fiction Groundhog Day. What happens is these aliens have come to Earth and they are attacking, and they're wiping out everybody. Now, the U.S. isn't really involved just yet, but they've sent this guy over to... They've started this big, I forget what they call it, this big defense, right, that's sort of all nations kind of defending against the aliens. And so Tom Cruise is sort of this untalented, goofy kind of army. I don't know his position, but nevertheless, he's above fighting, and he's just kind of like the spin team, kind of. And so he doesn't really have any skill on the battlefield. And in fact, you see him like bump into chairs and stuff in his daily life. He's not really a talented guy. He's just really good at speaking, and so he kind of can spin things to sound good.
Interesting.
But of course, he gets sent to the front lines. And so while he's there, and this isn't really spoiler stuff, but because it's first act, but he encounters something that gives him the ability to reset the day. So every time he dies, he starts the day over again. And so it's sort of like Groundhog Day in that way, where in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray goes to sleep and wakes up and it's the same day. This, every time he dies on the battlefield, he wakes up again at the start of the day and goes through that battle again, which of course gives him some really cool moments where he knows by heart every move the enemy makes. So because he's lived it, 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 times. And so it's a really cool movie, and he meets Emily Blunt, who used to have this power but does not anymore, and they decide they have to take out the aliens because they're the only ones that can, because they have the power to reset time and figure out where the enemy's going to be and when. So anyway, it's a really good science fiction movie. Again, it's pretty smart. It's really fun to watch because, like Groundhog Day, you get to kind of see this character evolve because he knows what's going to happen. And so, it's sort of atypical for Tom Cruise to start a movie where he's not very good at anything. Usually when you hire Tom Cruise, he plays a role and he's like the best at something. It's like, this guy is the best sniper or whatever it is, or the best time cop or whatever it was in Minority Report. And so it's weird for him to play a character who's not good at anything. But it's good because you get to see him become good at something. And so anyway, it's a really interesting movie. I have a few problems with it, just in terms of pacing. But for the most part, it's a really good movie, really solid, kind of funny little piece. I will say this, the design of the aliens bugged me. I think we're living in this time where alien designs are becoming more complicated and more visual effecty and more Decepticon-ish or something. And there's more moving pieces and more weird things. And it kind of takes... one of the things I say for movies and really for everyday life is there's beauty in simplicity sometimes. And so when you have this overly complicated character on screen, like these aliens are, you kind of don't get to see how they move and how they live, and they don't feel tactile because they're just too complicated. So I don't care much for the design of the aliens for the most part, but nevertheless, it's a good movie, and it's kind of Matrix-y. A lot of science fiction films these days are kind of vapid or shallow, and The Matrix was kind of the last big one, the last big game changer. And this probably won't change anything because really it's just, aliens versus Groundhog Day. But it is a smartly made science fiction film, and while it's in theaters, please go see it if you have a moment to spare, because yes, it's based on a Japanese manga, I believe, but the fact is it's kind of an original thing, because American audiences don't really know it, so most people don't know it's based on a manga. And so I feel like maybe it's an important movie to go see, just to kind of tell Hollywood, like, hey, lay off the Transformers for a minute and give us some smarter things. But anyway, so there you go. It's a good little movie, and if you have $7 extra and some time during the day to kill, maybe catch a matinee.
All right.
I wish a matinee was $7. It's not $7 here. No. It's $10. How much is a matinee for you?
Oh, I can't remember anymore. It's been so long.
Too much.
Yeah, a lot.
It's ridiculous.
Give me another one. You saw more than I did.
Okay. All right, so let's go with Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit.
All right.
So this movie stars Chris Pine as Jack Ryan. I haven't seen very many of the Jack Ryan movies at all. I guess I've seen... What was the first one that Harrison Ford did? Was that Clear and Present Danger?
I think so.
Or Patriot Games. Anyway, whichever the first one was that had Sean Bean in it, that's the one I've seen.
I think that's Patriot Games.
Okay. Well, that's the one I've seen. It's been a long time. But the other ones, like Sum of All Fears, I haven't seen. I think Alec Baldwin played him once. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, that was The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, that's right. And I haven't seen the other Harrison Ford movie. But...
it's weird. Alec Baldwin played him first. I didn't realize that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, Patriot Games was first, and then Clear and Present Danger.
Okay, so I've seen Patriot Games.
Yeah, you've seen Patriot Games.
But yeah, so this, I had no idea what to expect. Basically, this is Jack Ryan's first mission. He is wounded in a helicopter crash, and during his physical therapy meets Keira Knightley and falls in love, and then gets called to do some secret agent stuff. But he's really an analyst. He's not really an operations guy. So he gets thrust into being that, this analyst that is thrust to being James Bond. Honestly, I kind of saw the seams on this movie. It seemed kind of fake, and it seemed like it was trying to be Casino Royale too much, even to the point where, if you remember, the last line of Casino Royale was Bond, James Bond. The last line of this is Ryan, Jack Ryan. So
what?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He spoiler alert, he meets the president, and he's like, "What's your name, son?" And he goes, "Ryan, sir. Jack Ryan." And I'm like, "Oh, you even ended the movie the same way." And even the plot's sort of similar. If you remember in Casino Royale, Le Chiffre had this plot where he was going to make a lot of money in the stock market by causing a terrorist attack. That was sort of his plan. When that didn't work, he was like, well, I'll win my money back in a poker game. Well, the plot of this is Kenneth Branagh, who directs the film and also stars as the main antagonist. Yeah, weird. So Kenneth Branagh plays this guy, and he's like, I'm going to make a lot of money on the stock market. And so he's like, and they're like, how are you going to do that? And he's like, I'm going to cause a terrorist attack. And so it's pretty similar. There's even like a bathroom fight. Like if you remember, Casino Royale starts with a fight in a bathroom in black and white. It's the same thing here, only it's not in black and white. And, I just saw the seams on this too much. Mm-hmm. And I know Kenneth Branagh's a great actor, and he's a great director too, but I just couldn't get behind this one. I couldn't get into it. I didn't care much for the Jack Ryan character. That's no fault of Chris Pine, who I enjoy his work. I just think they didn't give us enough time to get to know him. Keira Knightley was playing an American in this movie. I think that's probably the first time she's ever played an American accent. But she does. And she does okay. She breaks a few times, but overall it's okay. I don't. Kevin Costner plays a big role in the movie, and this is probably just my personal opinion. I don't like Kevin Costner as a leading man. Not that he is in this, but he just has too much screen time. I like him in like Man of Steel, where he's in there for 10 minutes and has a few lines and then dies. But I've never, like Field of Dreams or Dances with Wolves, I've never really been a big Kevin Costner guy. So there's a little too much Kevin Costner in the movie, and it seemed a little unrealistic that he'd be doing what he's doing in the movie. And I don't know. It seemed so formulaic. You could tell every twist that was about to happen. And the climax of the film was really weird. It almost had like two climaxes, and it was really strange. And anyway, so it's just structured really strangely, and nothing really works very well, which is a shame. But yeah, that's kind of how it all panned out.
So would you recommend it then, or would you say skip it?
I'd say skip it. I mean, it's
especially
not
since it's
terrible.
Not tied to anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like I said, it takes a lot for me to hate a movie, so I don't hate it. But ultimately, you're just going to waste $1 at Redbox. You might as well just not. You're not going to get anywhere. It's not bad enough that you're going to learn from its mistakes, and it doesn't do anything good enough that you'll learn from its successes. So there's really no point in watching it.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, I didn't hear great things about it when it came out, and I didn't expect a good review from this.
No. I didn't expect to give one, but...
Yeah. Well. Oh, well. Well, I've got a good review for something.
Okay.
I saw The Purge.
Oh, okay.
This is a 2013 film directed by some guy named James DeMonico. I don't know. Yeah, he's just done a couple of films. Not really. No, not really that much. Just writing mostly.
Gotcha.
This is a little film, and this is what I like, Dustin. I like speculative fiction. And so in this film, this is 2022. The crime and unemployment rates in America it took a dive. Like there's almost no unemployment, and there's very little crime. Just unprecedented record lows. Because the country is under this new leadership, they're called the New Founding Fathers. I don't know who they are. They're just always referred to. You don't really know who they are. It's not important. And they have implemented this thing called the Purge, where it's like March. don't know, March something. I can't remember what the day is. Who cares? It's the Purge is a 12-hour period from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Once a year, in which all crime, murder, rape, robbery, all of it is 100% legal. You can do whatever you want, and no police will intervene. Ambulances won't come and help you if you're injured. Like, everyone just sort of goes home and it's like, all right, here we go. The only rules is that government officials ranking 10 or higher would remain unharmed, and the use of weapons above Class 4 is forbidden. I'm not sure what Class 4 really denotes, but 10 or higher, you can, for a government official, you can assume is like the president and like Speaker of the House and, you know, senators and shit. So yeah, no cops, no ambulances. Anybody who doesn't follow the rules of the Purge is executed. And the whole point of the Purge is the sentence on the Wikipedia, it sums it up pretty well. It says, though presented as a catharsis for the release of negative emotions and repressed urges, the Purge really serves as a form of population control, as the poor and the homeless are victims during this period. That's what it says on Wikipedia. That's more speculated at least the way I saw it in the movie. So, of course, like, through radio reports and the expository dialogue, not really even through the characters, it's mostly through the news and, like, radio. So I don't mind that, because news and radio does that all the time, where they explain stuff to you that you might already know, but some viewers don't know. So in my opinion, that's always a good way to get out expository dialogue, especially when you're world building this thing that doesn't exist now. So I understood 100% what the Purge was. When they start the Purge, they have like pretty much like a television broadcast that's like the words come up and they explain it to you, you know, before it starts. So I thought, I wrote down, it's the dumbest premise ever. But I think it's more because some people are just like, yeah, man, we need the release, we need to be cleansed. And I'm just like, oh, shut up. Like, I hate that. Yeah. But the premise, actually, it's an interesting setup for, you know, a suspense film, which this is. And boy, is it a suspense film. It stars Ethan Hawke. He's married to Lena Headey, Cersei Lannister, and they got a couple kids. And Ethan Hawke sells home security systems to people, like, so that people can't break into your house during the Purge. They can't get to your family, whatever else. So, of course, he has one himself. He's doing really well. He sold a shitload of them, and you know, and everything. So, what happens in the movie is the Purge starts. They shut down the house and everything. They just kind of hang out. But some dude down the street has been shot. There's like a hobo who got shot, and he's ran into their neighborhood. They live, you know, they have a rich white neighborhood, and so he's like, he runs in the neighborhood, and he's like, please, they're gonna kill him. Please, I swear I won't hurt anybody. Just please let me in. Someone, please. Like, he's bleeding, and so the son, who's not really cool with the Purge, he's just like, oh, he's like afraid, and oh, what about that guy? So he opens them up and lets the guy come in. And so whatever. So of course Ethan Hawke is pissed off, and shit, and the guy just disappears in the house. Like, you know, can't find him. So it's like, oh god, where is he? Like, meanwhile, these psychos who shot him found their way to his house. He's like, your neighbors told us you took him in. All we're really asking you to do is just give him back to us. We're not going to hurt you guys. We just want him. This is our right to purge, and he's scum. And, you know, the homeless are a burden on our country, and, you know, just let us purge as we are entitled. If you don't comply, then we will get in, and we'll kill all of. We'll take you with us as well. So Ethan Hawke's like, okay, well, we're trying to find him or whatever. So it's this pretty cool, like, moral dilemma. Like, if we don't let him out, if we don't surrender him to them, they will kill all of us.
Yeah.
But what does that say about us if we're willing to just hand him over? Like, what do we, you know, well, we don't have a choice, and blah, blah, blah. So it's super tense because the house is so dark because they cut the power, of course, to the house at a certain point. So it's a huge house, of course. So there's plenty of rooms and corridors and this stuff. It's crazy.
And creepiness.
The kid has a little remote control car with a night vision camera on it, which is creepy too.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the guys outside who want to come in are all wearing scary masks. Like porcelain masks. Like, oh, God. Yeah. And the one guy who addresses, Ethan Hawke through the camera, he takes off his mask to talk to him. His face is actually scarier than his mask. He has, like, just some kind of, like, this smiley, young, like, strong-featured face, like, handsome guy, but he's so creepy. It's just you can tell like they're all educated people, but it's just like, so the whole movie you've got lots of things going on. You've got like the physical, you got the suspense of like, of course eventually they get in, so everyone has split up and hidden basically. So there's that stuff going on, just this heart pounding like. And you've got regular people like who just show up who either have guns or an axe. A lot of like stuff where there's no sound. Like there's one shot where there's no sound, and like
that's always scary.
This woman is just skipping down the hallway. She's wearing this creepy mask, but she's wearing a dress. She's just skipping slow motion down the hallway, holding 2 machetes. I'm just like, oh my God! Like, just imagine turning the corner and there's a woman in a mask with swords. So it's. Can you hear me, Dustin?
Hooper,
are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. It cut out for a second. I'm just going to cut cut my camera off. So it's super creepy, and
yeah, it sounds like it.
So that's going on, but the whole time you're also left with like the just that by itself would be enough, but there's also just the lingering thought of this is okay, like this has been sanctioned by the government, and. And also the thought of these people cannot function. Like, their one reason they can be successful in life or whatever is because once a year they get to just let everything out like this. Like, they think about all year, like, it's okay, the purge will come, and then I'll kill my boss. And anyway, the idea that they function all throughout the year because they'll get their due on the purge, basically. Right. So just this really creepy, unsettling thought. I can't remember if I mentioned this already. I'm just going to say it again. They're going to make a sequel. It's going to come out in a couple weeks. It's called The Purge Anarchy, and it's being done by the same guy. So that's better than just handing it off to some other director to do it in order to save money. Which,
like the Paranormal Activity movie. Yeah,
and they shouldn't have a problem making money on this because this was a $3 million film and it made $90 million at the box office. Awesome. So they're going to keep making them. We'll see more of them, and if they're made by this guy, then I'll be excited to see them because I'm interested in seeing more stories surrounding this premise because the idea of the purge can outlast more than one movie.
Totally.
So I would like to see more of these. I think it was a good film. So you saw something?
Yes, I've got Lone Survivor, which I believe came out at the end of last year sometime. So Lone Survivor is directed by Peter Berg, who directed Friday Night Lights, and the pilot for the show Friday Night Lights, created that show. I think he wrote a little bit of it too, and then he went on. I think he directed Hancock and Battleship, and so now we're at Lone Survivor. Movie stars Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Kitsch, Emile Hirsch, Ben Foster, Eric Bana. Really great cast. Have you seen this, Hooper?
I have seen this.
You have? Okay. Have we talked about this on the podcast?
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, now's our chance. So for those of you who don't know, the plot revolves around this group of Navy SEALs, and it's based on a book which is, I believe, written by the guy who lived it. Yeah. Whose name is escaping me right now, but the point is, so it's this group of Navy SEALs. They go out on this mission, and everything goes wrong. Yeah. Basically, I mean, in the simplest terms, they get up on this mountain, and everything goes wrong. Basically now, it's just a group of Navy SEALs trying to survive. And so the movie is super intense. There is a heck of a lot of action and a lot of emotion as well. Hooper, what did you think about the movie?
I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought that it wasn't salacious or oversold or anything. I thought that the action was really well directed. I really liked the sound design too, and I just liked how tense the action is because they shoot it in the way that you would imagine it really is. You can't really see the people you're shooting at most of the time, and it's not like they're not way out in the open. They're also trained soldiers who hide behind shit, and it's hard to tell how many of them there are and where they're shooting you from. Right. And there's no music during the fight, during the scenes, which I really like too. It's just just straight up. So of course there's pressure on the sound design to be really good, which it is. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really like this movie a lot too. I think when it started, I was a little worried about it because it starts and it kind of feels like every other movie. Okay, here's these kind of like witty kind of soldiers and all this stuff and. You're kind of like, okay, then maybe this is going to be... But the fact is, Peter Berg has a really cool style of direction, and so that keeps you, enthralled there. And then his dialogue's really well written. And then he also makes use of silence. And I think that's really, really telling, too. But, so anyway, it keeps you entertained, and then once you get past that... and you start getting into the mission, that's when, to me, the characters really take on life because you get to see them in their element. And so it's not that the first act isn't good, because it is. It's just the next two acts are better. And so for me, I had a great time watching this. Like you said, it's tense. It's shot really well. I had a good time with this. I think the actors are totally believable. Maybe the weak link is Mark Wahlberg, but that's probably just because he comes with baggage already. Whereas Taylor Kitsch and Emile Hirsch, you've seen them in things, but they don't really carry baggage with them like Mark Wahlberg does. So maybe there's that. So I guess if I had to say there's a weak link, it would be Wahlberg. But we're splitting hairs here because it is a good movie, and some of this is a little spoilery. So if you don't want to, just skip a minute, forward. But basically, there's that scene, I think twice, where they're falling down these hills and they're hitting rocks and all this stuff. And not only is the sound design amazing during that, but just the editing, like going from character to character, and you get a clear idea of what is happening to everybody. Like you see every hit. Like when their head hits the rock, you see it. It's intense, and it kind of makes you squirm a little bit. And then of course Ben Foster's character, the way that he gets beat up is way more vicious than everybody.
That poor guy.
I know. And but okay, so in spoilers for me. If you have something you want to spoil, that's fine. But I had a great time with the movie, and it's one I'd gladly rewatch again.
Dude, they fall down that hill like longer than Andy Samberg falls down that hill in Hot Rod.
That's true.
They fall down that hill forever.
They do.
Like the biggest hill, like Mount Everest.
Oh man, that's true.
Yeah, they fall. It's for a long time. I really. It's good. I don't go home. You don't go home. I don't go home. You don't go home, man.
Yeah. And see, that's also part of the problem I have with it is Wahlberg is supposed to be from Texas, and
right.
I never can buy it. I'm like, do you even know what Texas is, brother?
That's right.
But he
doesn't even try.
So yes, Wahlberg's the weak link, but
Yeah. It's kind of like Wahlberg at his most natural is where he's at his best. Kind of like where Sam Worthington, remember that guy?
Yeah.
Sam Worthington, it was the most natural, was probably the best I'd seen him when he was at it, because it just, for some people, they just can't juggle too much at once.
Right.
So you may as well just let them be themselves.
Exactly.
Who else did that happen to? I guess Channing Tatum is another example of that. But there's another actor I was trying to think of who's like that. I don't know who I was thinking of. But yeah, there's a few actors out there like that who I'd just rather see him. Just look, we see you as Mark Wahlberg now. You may as well just take,
just be that.
Just be Mark Wahlberg. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you this too. During this movie, I think maybe it was his facial hair, but Emil Hirsch reminded me of Jack Black like 800 times during this movie. If you Google search it, he just looks like Jack Black lost a lot of weight and got younger
and runs really weird.
Yes, and then all of a sudden he's Emil Hirsch, and I'm like, whoa! I never knew Speed Racer was Jack Black.
He runs so weird. In every movie I've seen Emil Hirsch run in, I'm always just like, your form is so poor. You're not supposed to bow your elbows out. He's doing like that, like run instead of like arms forward. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't win the little race against Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah, exactly.
Taylor Kitsch is good form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said you revisited John Carter.
Yes.
So I also revisited a film.
Okay.
There's two films that I've determined are rewatchable for me always.
Okay.
One of them is Con Air. Mm-hmm. I could always watch it without diminishing value. And the other, maybe to a lesser degree, is this film, Armageddon. From I believe it came out. It came out. Oh, the page I pulled up was for like the actual end of days, not the film. Whoops.
It came out in the future.
It came out in 1998, and this was famously directed by Michael Bay, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. This is a big film. This is also one of those films that came out and had like a film just like it come out the same year. Yeah. That film is Deep Impact. I never saw that. I don't know.
Me neither.
Oh, there you go. This has a big all-star cast, big ensemble. It stars Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Billy Bob Thornton, Liv Tyler, Owen Wilson, Will Patton, Peter Stormare, William Fichtner. I don't even know how to...
Yeah, Fichtner.
Michael Clark Duncan, Keith David, and Steve Buscemi. So this film, of course, if you don't know, this is one of those films that almost everyone knows what it is. Basically, a big asteroid's heading toward the Earth, and so NASA hires these oil drillers to go up there with the astronauts and drill to the center of it so they can blow it in half and it'll split off and it won't kill us. Mm-hmm. There were some things I didn't really ever think about technically during this movie. The other times I'd seen it, I've seen this movie several times, and I think I keep renting it because I know that I'm going to enjoy watching it because it's a very entertaining film. It's incredibly well paced for a Michael Bay film.
Yeah.
And I think it's really well paced because one of the screenwriters was J.J. Abrams.
Was it?
Yeah. J.J. Abrams and some guy named Jonathan Hensley. But you can tell the idea. I don't know this for sure, but I feel like I could see it, and I could see a lot of J.J. Abrams in this script. Just the concept in general, all the NASA speak, just sort of the science around what the asteroid's coming at us. How fast? Why can't we avoid it? Why is this the only good idea to get rid of it? I feel like J.J. Abrams is the one who thought of why it has to happen this way, basically. So what this film is sort of heavy on is melodrama and kind of manipulated moments, but I don't really mind it because it's not building itself up to be like this. I don't know. If you look at the poster, it looks like it's supposed to be this really like, it's like the edge of the earth with the sun casting off of it and faces looking off into the distance and stuff. But it's I don't know. It's you've seen this, right, Dustin?
I have not actually.
You've not seen? Oh, okay. It's really good. It's really entertaining, and you can expect Michael Bay to be delivering on the spectacle, and it's really fun to watch. Like, of course, like every now and then a little piece of the asteroid destroys like a whole city or something. Paris gets decimated. Like Paris, it hits Paris, and it's like an atomic bomb went off. Like it kills everyone in the city. Like everybody.
Right. Yeah.
whole city of Paris is annihilated. But I especially like this is Bruce Willis is really good in this. He's really at his most charismatic, and he's
back when he was trying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I could really tell he was really trying. He gave a shit. This is before Ben Affleck was young Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
Ben Affleck at his most Ben Affleckiest. Because he's not in terms of age, but in terms of maturity, he's a boy here. And it's the script and the story's not asking that much of him emotionally. Nevertheless, he's still fun to watch. I want to talk. Billy Bob Thornton's really, really good because he's the one who has to spit out the most complicated dialogue of everybody. He's the director of NASA, and he's sort of helming this whole effort to get up there. The best story, and in terms of story emotionally, there's not much going on other than the plot. Bruce Willis's daughter's Liv Tyler, and she's in love with Ben Affleck, and he hates Ben Affleck, but he's gonna have to get over that. And then he's got all his group mates or whatever up there. The only other story that I thought it didn't really belong in this movie, but I was kind of glad it did in a way, was Will Patton. If you don't know who he is, he was the assistant coach in Remember the Titans.
Okay,
yeah. So Will Patton's in this. You find out that he has this estranged wife or whatever, and his a 3-year-old son. But he doesn't know who he is. Like his mom tells him he's just a salesman, which is it's just like, oh god. So imagine that for a second. So his whole thing was he brought he brings a little shuttle to them before he goes up there, and he's just I'm doing something. You might just be proud of me. So just if it works, just tell them it was me or whatever. So the son sees them on TV before they go up in the launch, and he's like, that salesman's on TV, and his wife's just like, oh, he's not a screw-up anymore or whatever. And so she's like, no, that's your father. That's not a salesman, that's your father. And I was like, oh, Jesus! And, it's so, of course, not everyone makes it back, but he makes it back, and it's never really in doubt that he makes it back, so that's not a spoiler for this 1998 film. No. But, it's just, that's kind of a nice little setup payoff of him regaining this relationship with his kid. But I don't know if that's going to do it for everybody, because that's a little story within the film. I think I just got fixated on it because that I would feel like shit if if I was in his shoes.
Yeah.
So, but I, upon revisiting Armageddon, it's just this. It's a pretty generic film, and but it did big business. I think, let's see, it was a $140 million budget, which for 1998 seems like a lot.
Yeah. It
made $553 million.
Wow.
So it did quite well.
Yeah.
It's worth seeing.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, really well paced. There's always something going on, but it keeps you interested. So, yeah, that was my revisited Armageddon.
Good, cool.
All right. We don't have too much time for these retro reviews, do we? All right, what do you got, Dustin?
I've got a couple of Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh.
So I'd only ever seen the first Planet of the Apes movie, and then obviously Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But I knew that Dawn was coming out, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I knew that it was coming out, so I wanted to kind of familiarize myself. So I went out and bought the Blu-ray set of all of the Planet of the Apes movies, all the original 5. Not including Tim Burton's, which I probably will never watch all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I don't know. Basically, So I had already seen the original Planet of the Apes, so I went to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and then also I saw Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Now, that still leaves Conquest of the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which I do plan to get to before Dawn comes out. So maybe when we do the podcast for Dawn, I'll tell you guys about the other two, too. So, here's the deal. How many of these have you seen, Hooper?
Planet of the Apes original, Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, and Rise. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Beneath the Planet of the Apes picks up right where the first one leaves off. So, spoiler alert, the first movie ends with Charlton Heston on the beach, and he finds the Statue of Liberty. And he's like, "You did it! You finally did it!" And he's, because he's on Earth the whole time. So the next movie picks up, and Heston's character Taylor and the girl that he's with, Nova, the girl who can't speak because she's just a dumb human. They take off along the beach, and they encounter some really weird stuff. And Charlton Heston is like, "I'll take care of it." Like, the weird things is like a weird wall of fire, and then like some lightning, and then earthquakes, all right in the same area. So Heston gets off the horse, and he has a gun, and he like tries to hit a rock with the gun, but then he just disappears for some reason. And so Nova's like, "Oh, I don't even know what to do now. I'm dumb." And so she starts like riding through the Planet of the Apes, and it turns out there was another spaceship that was following Taylor's trajectory, and it's now crash landed on the Planet of the Apes. And so the guy that was the Taylor of that ship, his name is Brent, and they even cast a guy who looks similar to Charlton Heston, which makes me think that maybe the original plan was to replace Heston. I don't know. And then Heston was like, "No, I'll do it." So I'm not 100% sure about all that. But anyway, so Brent obviously finds the Planet of the Apes, and he's like, oh, whoa. And Nova's like, "Hey, I can't talk, but basically, let me take you to Taylor." And they're like, "Okay." So it turns out that since Taylor has left, the guerrillas are ready to fight whatever is in the Forbidden Zone. They're going to fight it and take over and use the Forbidden Zone as like food source or whatever. So Brent and Nova go into the Forbidden Zone, and they find an abandoned subway tunnel. So now Brent knows that it used to be Earth because it was the same subway that he used, when he was in New York. And he's like, "No!" And he has the same little moment that Heston has. But they end up finding that there's a group of humans still alive down there, and they worship this massive atomic bomb as their god, and offer sacrifices to it and whatnot. And they speak with telepathy because they've been around so much radiation and blah blah blah. So anyway, the point is, Beneath the Planet of the Apes happens, and then I won't spoil the ending, but it leads into Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Now, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, really quickly, because I know you're going to have to go soon, Hooper. Escape from the Planet of the Apes has the two apes from the first movie that Heston meets. That would be Zira and Cornelius, the two chimpanzees.
Cornelius,
the scientists. They escape from the Planet of the Apes and end up through a wormhole or something weird, and a bend in space, I think is what they call it, or a bend in time or something. Anyway, they end up back in the 1970s in America. And America is like, "Whoa, hold up, there's some talking apes here." And so they kind of become celebrities. So it's a really weird kind of movie. But here's how it all ties together. Zira is pregnant and gives birth to a child who will become Caesar. So they are the parent of the ape that begins the revolution through time travel.
Okay.
So basically, long story short, Zira Cornelius go back in time, have a baby. The baby is super smart because it's a baby of these advanced apes, and it teaches the other apes, presumably in the next film, how to speak, and then they take over. So the next film, I know, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, is basically the closest thing to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So Rise is not an official remake of Conquest, but it's pretty close.
Right.
They both focus on Caesar taking over for the humans and leading a revolt or whatever, a revolution. So anyway, both Beneath and Escape from the Planet of the Apes are really cool movies. I mean, they're not great. They're kind of, Twilight Zone-y, which I like and I think is great. If you show them to somebody who maybe isn't familiar with the Twilight Zone or that kind of style of science fiction, they probably are going to be a little bored by it, but or think it's just kind of goofy. But for me, I kind of enjoy it, and it is goofy, but I kind of enjoy that. So, yeah, I mean, the movies to me are good, examples of science fiction with something to say. The first film tackled ideas of science versus faith, tackled ideas of racial tensions that were going on at the time, all that kind of stuff. You'll see brought back in the other films, and the Escape from the Planet of the Apes does something that I feel like is a little daring for a movie of its time. I won't spoil it, but you'll know it when you see it. And also Ricardo Montalban is in that one, which is awesome because that guy's amazing. And so whatever. I'm not through with them. I do like the fact that these do feel like, it almost feels like a television show. Like I'm 3 episodes into a 5-episode miniseries or something. They tie together that well, and usually series like this don't. It's kind of like, here's another thing, but. And this may be that, like, what else can we do to get money? But at the same time, they do tie together very well. And so anyway, for that reason, I'm going to say, if you haven't seen these movies, they're worth checking out, but only if you can kind of stomach a slower-paced science fiction film. If you're used to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, you're going to be used to a higher level of action that is not present in these movies. But nevertheless, these movies are still good. And likewise, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is really great, a really great example of a modern reboot, what it should be. So I'm looking forward to Dawn. I still have got 2 movies left to go, but yeah, I'm not deterred anyway. So
well, that's good to hear.
So what you got for me, Hooper?
I saw a couple of old movies. One of them is from 1994, and it is True Lies.
Oh, okay.
Directed by James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. I didn't know that this was a remake. But
is it?
I don't care. It's a remake of a French film.
Oh, okay. So, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, La Totale. But it's basically Arnold Schwarzenegger's a secret agent, and his wife finds out, essentially. Mm-hmm. Through some stuff, and then stuff happens after that. It's it's a straight action film. It was fun to watch. James Cameron knows action, and he shoots it really well. And there's not really that much to say about it. I'm glad I saw it. There's some added comedic elements that are really good. I mean, Schwarzenegger's really likable, as always. And his partner is Tom Arnold, so Tom Arnold gets a lot of funny things to say. There's a little subplot with Bill Paxton that's really entertaining. That is sort of how Jamie Lee Curtis finds out about her husband. Mm-hmm. This film reminds me that I don't know what Tia Carrere is doing with her career at this point, because this is 1994 when she's fresh off of Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. Mm-hmm. And then this, but I don't know what she did much after that. But it's a damn waste, because she was super hot and charismatic to her, in her own right, and she's not really doing much. Although I'm looking at a picture of her from 5 years ago, and she still looks really good. So I don't know quite what she's doing these days, except for maybe her music, I guess. Anyway, that's not really the point. I'd heard super great things about this, which is why I went back and saw it. But it's if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like it's one of those, it's sort of I guess it's a big film in this genre because it's sort of, maybe, I don't even know this for sure, but perhaps it's more closely identified with the kind like action movies when they spill over onto the home front, you know? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why, or when they involve family members. I'm not sure exactly why this one kind of survives throughout the ages, but it's solid action film. Yeah, it's cool. You haven't seen True Lies? It's a good film.
Yeah.
And I also went back and I saw a movie from 1998 starring Tom Hanks. It is Big, directed by Penny Marshall.
Okay.
Because this is one of Tom Hanks's big movies.
Yeah.
And basically he's a kid who wishes to some creepy thing in a carnival that he wants to be big. Mm-hmm. So he wakes up the next day and he's Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I would love to wake up and be Tom Hanks.
That would be crazy.
So it basically follows, well, what does he do then? So he finds his best friend who he gets him to realize, hey, it's me. I knew the premise before I saw the movie, but what I didn't know is he goes to like New York and he actually gets a job at like a toy company and, inadvertently gets like promoted to like one of the head executives of like decisions at the company. So he actually has a great life. He makes a lot of money and his house is, just full of pinball machines and like baseball, just toys. He's got he has like a corner penthouse in a building. So he puts a big trampoline on it. So if you look from the street, you can just see dudes jumping on trampolines. Because it's like a floor to ceiling windows too. But of course, it deals with at what point does a little boy want to go back home, and how does he survive in a world full of adults? But also, how can you kind of bring back that childlike wonder to other people who have become more cynical and jaded in their own lives? So how his childhood affects others, but how the world sort of affects him and sort of matures him in a way. So, and kind of, it's like a short little kind of allegory to the whole kids, wanting to grow up fast. And then you sort of realize maybe you don't. And then adults who wish they were still children because adulthood's complicated. Yeah. Obviously, it's kind of a must-see. It's a must-see if you like Tom Hanks. It's a must-see for kind of that era, these late 80s fantasy comedies. Yeah, it's a classic. It's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that is all I have for retro reviews. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I love that. Love that old lady.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we've got. I don't know what's going on with my garage band, but it's bad. So, anyway, we will see you all later, and next time we will have more stuff.
Wait, are we going to see all of them?
Hopefully, they'll come back.
Yeah, but I never see anybody.
Well, I watch them.
Oh no!
I watch them.
No.
She loves to watch me sleep.
I always feel like somebody's watching me. And I got no privacy.
No privacy. Okay, everybody. Well, have a good night and good luck.
Sleep tight
and guten Tag. But most of all, I hope you have a wonderful day.
I now officially name that the creepiest moment ever on the HooperCast. Because I'm wearing earbuds, so you were literally in my ear, and I swear I could feel the heat from your breath in my ear. No, stop it.
You have to go potty.
No.
This is your brain talking.
Shut up, brain.
I need you to go and
is that my brain or Voldemort?
And burn down the library.
Kill the spare.
I need you to go I whisper to my friends and I tell them things I need them to do.
Hooper, that does not sound like you. Like, if I heard that, I would never in a million years guess that was your voice.
Excuse me. I have a mission for you. I need you to walk my cats down the street to the beach.
I mean, I can still tell that it's your rhythm of speaking, but other than that, that's not even recognizable.
I've got a little bit of ticky-tacky falling down the treetop stairways.
Oh my God, I'm scared.
Oh. All right. Well, we'll find out what that sounds like later.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
All you happy people.